to be scared? Are you feeling your heart race? Did you feel your breathing getting faster and more shallow? And did you feel that adrenaline rush when your body thought it was in danger? This is how we react with our fight or flight response. The term fight or flight was first used by Walter Biegun, a psychologist and professor at Harvard Medical School in 1995. In his research, he found that there were noticeable physical changes in the digestive systems of animals when they were experiencing fear. This is due to our sympathetic nervous system triggering our fight or flight response. It was useful to us humans when we were cavemen and had to protect ourselves from each other and other animals, and it was useful when we were actually in danger. However, now, and some of you may know this from experience or otherwise, these feelings are what we experience in a panic attack. Now, when you heard that scream, you probably thought you were in danger. Yet, when the lights came up, you had the relief of knowing you were safe. I'm sure we've all experienced the real use of fight or flight. It was useful for me when I had to flee the Piccadilly Theatre as the ceiling came crashing down beside me. Well, I got up to run, saw my bag, and spent an extra 30 seconds trying to get it out from under my chair, which, looking back, definitely wasn't the safest of decisions. Luckily, I got it out, and then I ran. But when I was back at home, reflecting on this moment of near death, my fight or flight response was triggered again. However, I was now in a safe place, meaning all I did was panic. This, as you can imagine, was a very unproductive use of my body's instincts, as I could tell I was no longer in any danger once I'd left the theatre. A lot of people with anxiety go through these feelings often, maybe even every day. I have experience with anxiety and panic attacks, and my anxiety, like many other people's, doesn't actually require medication. So I started looking into ways to help me reduce my anxiety on a day-to-day basis, and that's where I found the help of horror. Now, when people think of horror movies, most people think of the classic Psycho with a chainsaw killing everyone, or The Shining's classic quote, "Here's Johnny as he plunges an axe into the door his wife is hiding behind," or you might just think they're way too scary. But my mind definitely goes to my favourite horror movie scene from Nightmare on Elm Street, as Freddy Krueger moves through the wall, reaches down, almost attacks his next victim. Now I think of this moment with a sense of happiness and excitement. But when I show my excitement for things like horror and gore, people react with a sort of disgust, as if what I've just said is taboo. And I don't want this. I want to be able to talk about my love of horror movies, books, and TV shows without people immediately saying, "What is wrong with you? You're going to be a murderer when you're older." They wouldn't say these things if I was talking about puppies, a supposedly normal thing to get excited about. But I'm all about normalising horror. I love it. It's the adrenaline rush, the range of possibilities of what might be behind that door or around that corner, the suspense right before a good jump scare. It's the same feeling you get when you're on a roller coaster, another essentially normal thrill. But I do love roller coasters, but horror is just special to me. I also see horror as a sort of outlet for things like pent-up anger, energy, and excitement, and it is extremely useful for things like anxiety. So you're all probably thinking me absolutely crazy right now, thinking which people with anxiety would ever want to watch horror movies? Would that not just give them more to be anxious about? But surprisingly, in most cases, that's not actually true, and this is why. Horror movies such as The Exorcist, The Purge, It, and most others are a way for us to experience our fight or flight response, the feelings of anxiety and adrenaline, but in a known safe environment. And then, if done regularly, we can learn how to control the feelings when they're unnecessarily there, being able to stop the adrenaline when it's not needed. This can, like for example, learning what breathing techniques or thoughts can slow and stop the anxiety. This can therefore prevent panic attacks and help people with anxiety live a more comfortable day-to-day life. But don't just take it from me. A Danish psychologist, Dr. Mathias Clausen, who has been studying the psychological effects of horror for 15 years, explained that when watching horror movies, part of our brains knows it isn't real, but ancient structures in the brain respond as if it were, thus triggering our fight or flight response. However, he does understand that people with anxiety can find horror movies therapeutic, as it confines the response to a controlled environment and therefore allows us to safely get experience with the negative emotions of anxiety. But I'm not saying that this is a sort of substitute or replacement for any prescribed medication, but for the people like me who need something to help them every few days or weeks, that's what it can be used for. And when I talk about controlling your response, I don't actually mean choose between fight or flight, but you can do that too. I actually did this once a few years back when I was staying in a haunted theatre with my old drama school. I'd recently learnt about what fight or flight is and knew that I typically had a flight response, and I wanted to change this to see if I could fight instead of just run away. Well, the next day, it was late at night and me and my two friends were walking back to the room we were all sleeping in. We were walking past the dark room and someone thought it absolutely hilarious to jump past us wearing a black cloak. Now, instead of just screaming and running away like I usually would, I punched them right in the face. It didn't actually hurt them, because I'm weak, but it showed me that if I could control which response I used, I could definitely control the severity of the symptoms it causes. And this is how horror has helped me, and I hope it can help you too.